Hey guys, it's me, Matthew, and this is going to be a really long video, probably has some cringe in it, and I really suck at making YouTube videos, but I want to go into all the information of this. This is like my 10th take trying to do this. I'm just going to do it in one shot and try to get through this. I'm really sorry. I've been a level designer for many years. I've been modding for 6 years, and I'm also a cybersecurity enthusiast. So without further ado, let's get into it. This is a TurtleWoW lawsuit currently. It kind of all this drama stems from them. Shin is a really shady character. I've made YouTube videos about her before and lots of information backing up my claims. And now here we are with the official lawsuit. One thing to keep in mind when it comes to modding is a lot of people ask, what's the difference between your server and another server in terms of having something like this happen to them? Yeah, I know, really vague, right? The primary answer is there's no difference other than Blizzard's discretion and what they want to have there and what they don't want to have up. At any point, Blizzard can take you down. It doesn't matter if you don't put money into your project, or you do, or you take people's money, or whatever the hell you do. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, in the original WoW client, there's a little tiny text file. And this text file only allows players to connect to Blizzard servers. Now, when you delete that text file, it's easy, then you just select whatever server you want to go to, and it's voila. Well, because you delete that file, it's considered modifying the client, which then they can already get you for. That's not to mention as well, you using Blizzard assets. When you create a World of Warcraft website, for example, you're using World of Warcraft Blizzard assets, probably for, say, Night Elf images or whatnot, and they can get you for the copyrights. The same goes inside the client themselves for the models. They can get you for that. So it gets really hairy. Now, the other problem, for example, is, say, Trinity Core or Azeroth Core, whatever it is. They claim that it emulates World of Warcraft's backend. So then if you use something like that, then it's even more difficult, because then it's like a clone. There's a lot of legal pieces right off the bat, just without any drama, that Blizzard can get you for. So almost immediately, if Blizzard doesn't like you, they can just take you offline. Now, that being said, they have been really lenient towards private servers. And you guys might be like, no, they didn't. They took down Light's Hope and, say, Nostalgia and whatever else. And you're right. But for the most recent amount of years, that's only a few of the servers, and that's because of the player bases. Now, in the case of TurtleWoW, we need to understand that Warmain themselves, Warmain, a different server, has been up for many years, and they're located in Russia. Project Ascension has been up for many years, and they've been up. And finally, Turtle has been up for many years. I believe Warmain has more than likely got a cease and desist letter, but they don't care because they're located in Russia. I know for a fact Ascension WoW has gotten a cease and desist letter, but they don't care because Dutch is Dutch. And finally, TurtleWoW is Plan C. So what used to happen essentially is Blizzard would send a cease and desist letter, people would typically abide by it, excuse me, and they move on. That hasn't happened in recent time. Now, because of that, Blizzard has decided to take a liking to TurtleWoW and file a lawsuit against them. This lawsuit is basically a RICO, and they only have about 30 days to abide by it, or else Blizzard wins by default. TurtleWoW is not going to show up, but the players, or not players, shall I say, the individuals who are working on TurtleWoW are not per se safe. Now, this also means that if Blizzard wins this, TurtleWoW can, of course, try and go back to the courts and say, hey, let's fight this. We all know they're not going to, which means that Blizzard can then go to providers and whatnot and say, hey, they're running this service on your platform. Get rid of it. So say, for example, Cloudflare, TurtleWoW won't be able to use Cloudflare. Say they're using OVH, you won't be able to use OVH hosting anymore. So they're going to essentially push Turtle into a corner in a dark spot of the internet. They're not going to really be able to, per se, stop them. And that's the issue with most of modding. That's also why, for example, when there's cheats or whatnot for video games, they usually come out of Hong Kong or something like that for, say, League of Legends, and then next thing you know, you have to get involved with the Chinese government, and so on and so forth. A really great example is League Sharp, if you ever want to look up that story. Now, that being said, it's already been 5 minutes in, and we have barely covered this. something I want to mention here is you can see the mentioning of their own players think it's illegal on the mentioning. They create an Unreal Engine 5 video. They are a fictional shell company. The thing is with Blizzard is that if you are a very transparent person, or a company rather, and you show all your legal work, like you actually have a quote unquote legitimate company that's an LLC, you have people there, you are creating a server, and you're actually just doing it because it's for modding, then Blizzard typically just allows it to happen without officially allowing it. When it was, say, passion projects, for example. But when you have big servers, like for example TurtleWoW or Ascension, things change because TurtleWoW and Ascension are kind of monopolistic. So for example, in the case of Ascension WoW, really obvious, you can look it up. They've taken over Vendetta WoW, World of RuneScape, Epoch, that we're going to get into in a moment, and Conquerors of Azeroth. They are essentially creating an empire. TurtleWoW's done the same with Everlook, Vanilla Plus, a bunch of other projects, Elysium. You can just go down the list of other projects that they've been doing. So you have these two different massive empires that are essentially starting to clash now. Blizzard has tried to go after both of them, and in this case, now finally we're seeing the official lawsuit for Turtle. We don't know if they've had a cease and desist letter beforehand. We are presuming that they do, of course, because this is mostly hearsay until recently we had the lawsuit for Turtle. The biggest issue with Turtle is not only did they have all these other servers pop up and they start taking money from Chinese players and whatnot, they also had their TurtleWoW leak. And in this WoW leak, it exposed a lot of players' usernames, emails, passwords, IP addresses, you name it, all of it. This is a really big security breach. And what did Turtle do in response to it? They started banning people and deleting posts, anything to do, anything about the mentioning of it, completely sweeping it under the rug. Now, as I'm not here to side with Blizzard. I'm my own individual person. I've worked with ex-Blizzard employees before. I've talked to Blizzard employees. And I'm not trying to defend them because obviously I'm a modder too, and it would suck if my own project got taken down. Ooh. But you have to see it that Blizzard are also adults. And when players connect to WoW, they link psychologically the World of Warcraft world with Blizzard. So even though, you know, as a player, oh, hey, you know, I'm playing on a private server, there's that. If you get a bad experience in, say, TurtleWoW, you might very well just quit playing World of Warcraft altogether, which then means you're entirely out of the sphere. Where at least then, say, if WoW got rid of a server, then you might jump to another one, or you might head back to retail, especially with the new content, because usually people who play on private servers also play on retail every so often, such as grabbing a sub for a month whenever a new expansion comes out, along with the expansion, and then quits. That's still money to them. With that being said, though, with the TurtleWoW leak, a lot of information was leaked. Now, with that information being bomb dropped, you also have to keep in mind as well that Turtle has been openly talking shit to Blizzard on their X, on their social medias. People will, for example, say, hey, you know, if Blizzard ever took you down, what's going to happen? They're like, let them come, let them try to see what happens. And so they've been baiting them this entire time. They haven't been quiet about it. So for this lawsuit to suddenly happen, it's pretty obvious they were wanting it to. Now, Bowser also really likes publicity. He is kind of the person who's like, bad news is good news. So when these lawsuits and whatnot come out, they're immediately seen as a victim here. Even though TurtleWoW has been literally just taking everyone's money and not batting an eye, this is what essentially has been going on. People are like, well, actually, TurtleWoW is the hero here because they're allowing us to play the game for free, and they have better quality, or they do custom contents, things that we've always asked for. There can be a drug dealer selling you drugs, and you really like the guy because, you know, he's great, but at the same time, you can get the same stuff at a pharmacist. The guy selling the drugs is not exactly, you know, legally correct, but the pharmacist is. Now, that's probably a bad take, but anyways. So, if we continue from there, TurtleWoW, lawsuit drama and everything, to top it off, they start going into Unreal Engine 5. Now, the catch with Unreal Engine 5 is if they can get the client to work entirely in Unreal Engine 5, that voids Blizzard's right to say, hey, you've been modifying the client this entire time. Well, now here's the other catch. If they start creating their own models, if they start replacing the original Blizzard models, then they have an even better case, because then per se the copyright isn't there. Now they may have to go off of designs or things of that nature. And then the argument continues to get worse and worse for Blizzard. So this is a really big sweet spot for you. Going further, of course, through this drama, other things start happening. We had, for example, Neto make a announcement on Everlook saying that Everlook EU servers were going to shut down. This is a lot of questionable things happening, because Neto mentioned that EU servers are going down, not that all Everlook servers are going down, and that this cease and desist letter is happening, and so on and so forth. Usually with these cease and desist letters, it means everything's going away. Like, you literally pull everything off and out. You do not mention we're going to a different area. You don't do anything of that nature. You just say, hey, we have to shut down. That's usually how these cease and desist letters work. They fully shut you down. However, with Neto, that wasn't the case, and they try to make this whole publicity thing. Now, keep in mind, Everlook and TurtleWoW are close partners, I believe, on the back end, as there's been rumors to be true that Neto works closely with TurtleWoW, and they actually are TurtleWoW, but they're just a private server, if you will, that stems off of it. Kind of like, for example, how Conquerors of Azeroth is a different private server, or World of RuneScape, but yet they're owned by Ascension WoW now. That being said, Neto makes this announcement, and we see that they're closing down EU servers. Well, then next thing you know, 3 weeks later, we get a new post with a bunch of their information, like their accounts, the characters created, and years of gameplay. And we see here that now suddenly they're allowing transfers to Everlook Asia. This is not how a cease and desist letter works. You have to stop all your operations. There's no, hey, we're going to transfer it or anything like that. No, you're done. You stop. And you can see here that they're even using the same website, everlook.org. That it doesn't add up, and it does not at all communicate with how a cease and desist letter looks, okay? This is not how it functions. And while I don't have the drama in here, a really great example is Vlad from Shinobi Story. Vlad fucked over a lot of players. He made hundreds of thousands of dollars, including fucking over his own developers, and then he claims that he got a cease and desist letter. Well, that's nice and all, but then explain to me, why the hell are you now working on a new private server? You don't then start a new project. It's not how this works. You have to stop everything that you're working on. But I digress. So we see here essentially that they're moving all their players from EU over to their Asia server. And coincidentally, Everlook had their population really dying out, which I find really interesting that they had to mention that their other server has over 1,000 concurrent players each day, which then means that this was meant to kind of merge or come up with an excuse for bringing over their people. This also gave them a lot of hype again on the private server Reddits as well. So you have Turtle, that actually happened, and now you have Epoch, sorry, not Epoch, Everlook, suddenly claiming that, hey, they also got hit too, but don't worry, they're going over to a different server, which, again, doesn't make sense. So I call the Everlook stuff bullshit. I called it bullshit when I went inside their Discord and started talking about it as well, and even tried messaging Neto, and also was trying to get him to talk to me, even though he was ignoring me inside their general chat and everything else. It's nonsense. If they never show you the cease and desist letter, don't believe it. Now we go into the next one here, and this is where we get into lots and lots of drama. So this one's actually out of order. So we're going to start here. Most recent drama that you guys know about is K-Totes mentioning that there was a cease and desist from Blizzard and that they're shutting down essentially. Well, we need to take this a few weeks back. What ended up happening is K-Totes tried releasing his server and everyone was super hyped for it, and next thing you know, things weren't working. I hate to say it, but for example, TurtleWoW mentioned how they were going to DDoS K-Totes when the server was going to happen, or they indirectly said that they were going to do it. Next thing you know, though, say I think it was 2 weeks later, we have Ascension coming in to assist them. Ascension does the same thing, though. They will also cause problems for a server, So whether it was TurtleWoW, whether it's Ascension, whether it was actually DDoS, or they just had player account issues, whatever it is, it was happening. There was a problem, and Ascension stepped in. When Ascension stepped in, Epoch gave, or Ktotes gave Dutch the ownership to the Discord. So Ktotes no longer owned it, essentially. And one of the things that Dutch does when he takes over a private server is he restricts access from just about everything. So Dutch now owns the Discord. Dutch now has the server being hosted on his server with full root access, if you will. Dutch now has the source code. He has full permission to the source code. He can take it over, if you will. He has access to everything and basically ownership of everything. That's for how they do it for safety reasons. Now, that being said, we fast forward a few weeks later. They start doing their release and whatnot. It seems like everything's going well. We have their lead, one of their lead devs just decide to dip away. And then we have Ktotes also dip away here, as well as a few others. Well, here's the thing. Their lead dev, or one of their lead devs, Magic, stepped away, supposedly, and just dipped off the face of the world. He created a comment, and I'll show you guys in a little bit, on his YouTube post saying a lot of things happened IRL, and that he just had to take a step back. Ktotes over here, say a week and a half later, mentions the cease and desist from Blizzard Entertainment, and in compliance they're shutting it down, and yada 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 yada. This is where things get hairy. Ascension, remember, has already had cease and desist letters. So there can be two official ways that goes down here. The first one is Ktotes got the cease and desist letter and he wanted to abide by it. And personally, I think this is partial to be true. He wanted to abide by it, and so he tried to shut things down. He quickly realized Dutch owns everything. And because he owns everything, I believe Ktotes probably got kicked from the Discord for making this post. Now, with that being said, there's been no whistleblowers. So I think as well, with this, it's very possible that the original developers were told by Dutch to go and create new Discord accounts and purge all their old information, and that they're now going to be under the Ascension staff team. So now they're all going to be paid and everything, because they did get a deal to be paid originally. They were getting paid by Ascension. They were now, but the amount of money obviously is nowhere near what they would have been making if they just did Epoch alone. Now, once again, I think what ended up happening is Dutch went in, decided to start cleaning house, whether it be telling them they can be on the team or not. And a cease and desist letter actually did come in the mail, because Ktotes obviously has everything directed to his information. When this happened, Dutch obviously did action, started say maybe he removed Ktotes, maybe he didn't. I personally think he kicked Ktotes out of his own Discord because he didn't own the Discord anymore. But Ktotes deleted his Discord entirely. It's completely gone now. He is GitHub repo. Rest in peace, and awesome as hell, Modder. That being said, with this came mentions. Let's go into this one. Kaladin made a post, no plans on turning Epoch off. So next thing you know, there was no mention of it happening. You know, no plans on turning Epoch off. Don't worry about it. After the Ktotes mention, just reorganizing. Then, for example, you have Dutch almost immediately posting a new post as well, saying, hey, you know, don't worry, we're going to have more updates soon. RMTs have been quite successful. We're putting in-game bug tracker, blah, 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 blah. And all that started happening. Well, as this essentially progressed, what ended up happening is, and I say that, you take a shot every time I say it, MDick, which is another successful modder, wrote inside the community, directly pinging at Dutch inside of our modding discords where Dutch does exist and live. Hey, you forgot something that clearly makes a cease and desist letter fake and bullshit. And it was that their GitHub was not taken down from a cease and desist letter. the Git's still up, and when I was ceased and desisted by Nintendo and Take-Two, the Gits got disabled by GitHub. So I mean, believe what you will, at that point, it would have been replaced by cease and desist letter, and he shows proof of when he got DMCA takedown. Well, coincidentally, after this ping, within a day, the GitHub got taken down. Looks like he fixed it for you. 4.4 as of this morning. 4.4 error means that the user themselves removed it. Not that GitHub removed it, but that the user themselves removed it. And you can see here as well that this is information, that wasn't so hard given no personal information was provided. This is very important to mention as well for the cease and desist letter, that no personal information is provided, because it goes into a conversation that I had with Magic that only a handful of people know and got to be aware of. Inside the Epoch Discord, about a month before all this happening, Magic left the team, and then he decided to come back afterwards. There's all kinds of random ass drama as to why. He made a post on his YouTube that explained it. He since then has removed his YouTube and everything else that went along with it. But I asked him, he went, let me back this up. So with Magic, he went on an alt inside modding community and he started doing freelance work. And being a security guy, I caught on to who he was through a screen share and figured out the information very quickly because he was still modding, even though he said that he would stop modding. Well, needless to say, he started working on doing some spells and stuff, and I was happy with it. But that allowed me to have the opportunity to ask him when K-Totes mentioned it. If we go back here, when this happened, I sent him a message asking, hey, what the hell's going on? And this message pretty much summed up like this. I asked him for a copy of the cease and desist letter because it doesn't have information stamped on it everywhere, contrary to popular belief. That's not how it works. It's just like a formal letter, if you will. Now, within cybersecurity, you learn something called social engineering, where you can ask a question and see if you get information out of it. In this case, I asked him a question right here. I'm in blue. For the context, even without your personal information on it, is it like stamped everywhere? This is me asking him for proof of the cease and desist letter that is being claimed, because he said that he got one as well. Everyone on the team seems to have received one, and so he's officially now just shutting everything down. He went completely MIA after this, as far as I can see, but he's officially shutting everything down. And he says yes, which is bullshit. And I said, oh shit. And he said, wishing you the best. This is the end of modding and emulation for me, though. And I said, well, pleasure working with you, because I once again had him do some freelance work. And I said, here's a random theory. Hear me out here. Obviously, you hold more knowledge than me here. Dutch is known for stealing people's projects. So Dutch owns the Epoch server. However, he still has to pay everyone, etc. So why doesn't he capitalize on the TurtleWoW drama and send you all the paperwork? He has the money to hire the PIs. And did you look into it? Did you try calling Blizzard's legal department and confirm that it was legit? Like, what's going on? And of course, I'm left on red. This leads back to my original speculation. If I had to make a full-on belief system as to what happened, I believe, on my own hunch, and both of these are very possible, that either Dutch removed K-Totes or K-Totes is still working on Epoch. I don't believe that he's still working on Epoch, though. Just given by his character and himself as a person, he's a really good guy. I think he left it entirely. I think he was overwhelmed, and I think he knows that he made a mistake having Ascension come into existence for his server, and I think he realized the mistake, and it was a oh shit moment for him. Now, inside this oh shit moment, his other devs got paid really, really well to keep their mouths shut, and here we are today. If this wasn't the case, I believe we would hands down have whistleblowers explain the entire situation to deal with Ascension WoW. but there has since then been no whistleblowing whatsoever. This leads me to believe that it is the case, in fact, that they're all still working on the same project, because usually modders talk a lot. Now, this is a summary of all information. So TurtleWoW got hit with the lawsuit. Overlook bullshitted theirs. Ascension took over Epoch. The cease and desist letter didn't mean anything to them other than, for example, K-Toads. I would even venture to say that the cease and desist letter didn't happen and wasn't going to happen until Ascension took it over. Because if you remember, as I said before, Ascension WoW's already got many cease and desist letters. So it's very convenient how Epoch was fully functional and operational working, and next thing you know, because Ascension took it over, now suddenly they got a cease and desist letter, because Blizzard is going after both of these two groups. Now, for a standard modding server, does this mean that you can't get big? Does this mean that, you can't have a donation shop? What's going on here? This is my personal opinion rather than all this information belief. I believe that if you're transparent enough that allows Blizzard to take you down at any moment with no issues, then, and you're an actual passion project, they don't mind. For that matter, I know people who modded on WoW and actually got a job at Blizzard. Multiple people, actually. You can do it, and they don't mind it even. For that matter, if you do really well and you create things, they can see private servers as a kind of testing grounds, if you will, to see what does and doesn't work. I mean, look, the only reason why we have vanilla at this point in time is because of how popular the private scene became for the classic servers. Now, with that being said, though, I believe there are some limits, and we don't really know what those limits are because it's up to Blizzard's discretion. But take, for example, me. I've worked on my own Discord and community. I've had people in my Discord before. I've reached YouTube videos on my modding plus views, higher than anyone had ever seen at the time. I've released YouTube videos that were very similar style, that's very similar to modding and everything else in regards to Blizzard's schema and all that. And I work on my own passion project. I'm not owned by anyone, it's just myself. And I've never even had my own YouTube channel taken down for that project. Never had it happen once. Not one time. No per se copyright strikes, nothing of that nature. And there's been other servers as well that's never had this issue per se. But because of what Turtle's doing, being a monopolistic assholes, because Ascension's doing the very same thing, I believe they're being faced with this. And I think if you ever hear that cease and desist letter happens, we as a community need to say, show me, or stop spewing bullshit. Because right now, it's the go-to rug pull option. You make, say, hundreds of thousands of dollars off of a project, and you then just say, sorry guys, I got a cease and desist letter. Gotta run, bye! So, that's my personal take on it, as well as all the information to back it up. It's very clear that it was bullshitted in regards to the GitHub. It's very obvious. It's bullshit as well with the Everlook, because they would have had taken down everything to do with Everlook. There's been smaller servers as well that claim to be taken down by Blizzard as well, or being taken down. It's also bullshit, just that way they can get away in the rug pull. I don't think that Blizzard has whatsoever done anything in recent years to make us think Blizzard's going after private servers. It's always fun to hate on Blizzard, but at the end of the day, I think that they're genuinely trying to protect their player base in an indirect way, whether or not we want to believe that. So, anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you guys enjoy this and you see all the information. Hopefully it doesn't sound like a bunch of he said, she said nonsense, but that's the best I can do. Until then, bon voyage. Later.